I'll call this meeting of the Christiansburg Town Council to order. As we always do, we will observe a moment of reflection. I ask that the members of council and those who may know keep our friends from the town of Herndon in their prayers. One of their town council members, Jeff Davidson, was killed in a car accident this past weekend. So they're all in shock over that. So let's observe a moment of silence. Thank you. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm going to ask Councilman Brad Stipes to lead this for us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I would like to make an adjustment, please. Under consent agenda item, I'd like to remove item B and have it stand on its own. I have a couple corrections.
Got a motion?
Yes, formal motion.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. Councilman Bishop?
Aye.
Councilman Collins?
Aye.
Councilman Hubbard? Councilwoman Sachs?
Aye.
Councilman Showalter?
Aye.
Councilman Stipes?
Aye.
That is 6-0. We will move that to item B under discussion and action by mayor and council. Tonight we have two public hearings. One, the ordinance to amend Chapter 24 nuisances of the Christiansburg Town Code in regards to Article 2 regulation of noise. If you are here to speak, if you will come to the podium, give us your name and your address, and we're going to ask you to limit your comments to not more than 5 minutes. Is there anyone here to address this issue? Hearing none, I will close that portion of the public hearing. Ordinance to amend Chapter 42 zoning of the Christiansburg Town Code in regards to permitting a loudspeaker sound amplification / outdoor sound system to be used in excess of the Chapter 24 nuisance article, regulation of noise by conditional use permit in the A, MU1, MU2, B1, B2, B3, I1, and I2 zoning districts. Is there anyone here to address this issue? Hearing none.
All right, you're hearing the sound works now?
We're doing the second one is on the amplification loudspeaker system. The first one's closed.
Like I said, this one I want to talk about. The proposal.
Podium, 5 minutes. No more than 5 minutes. Name and address.
Thank you, everybody noticing. Stacy Martin.
Address?
Address 782 New River Road. There was a gentleman known as James Otis in 1761. If you ever figured out like history. His businesses, we have no representation. He's the one who coined the famous phrase, taxation without representation. That's the famous phrase. But there's another part of that no one ever hears. He actually said, taxation without representation is tyranny. What my point is, businesses were exempt in the old code. The judge did not say that the code had to be updated to unexempt businesses. Now we have a situation where businesses are yet again scrutinized for 65 decibels. Point being is that on the night period of 11 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays, can someone please explain to me what that actually gave anyone? The 65 decibels day and night. So that seems to make kind of a rush to me or something, out of breath, sorry. Seems to kind of create an impossible situation. During the daytime, if you're 65 decibels, and oh, by the way, Fridays and Saturdays, you get to go to 11 p.m., 65 decibels. What exactly did we accomplish? Is my point. So, other than one member on the council has business experience where they actually run a business, I'm asking for you gentlemen and ladies to think about the entire community, because the entire community is made up of business people and citizens, not just citizens. When we businesses create the majority of the tax refund revenue for the town of Christiansburg. And so we need some representation too. Now, I do believe that the sound code has gone through lots of changes, and they've listened to a lot of input. This is one sticking point that I'm still very concerned with, because if you take Fatback Soul Shack, for example, down by the interstate, it's impossible to get a 65 decibel rating. And no one's really been able to answer that question. How can they have their music outside at night if the given sound by VDOT is 80 decibels just from the road noise? How are they going to have 65 decibels? Does that mean if someone is a mile away, like last time, and they hear a little something in the air and it comes out at 70 decibels, were they causing the 70 decibels, or was it the actual road noise? Now, if someone can answer that question and how it's going to be handled, maybe that issue goes away, but I am concerned that that will be a problem. And that's more or less what my thoughts were. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Barton. Anyone else to address council? Hearing none, we'll close this portion of the public hearing. We move on to the consent agenda. We have the council meeting minutes of March 27th, approval of bike sharing program memorandum of understanding resolution recognizing April the 8th through the 14th, 2018 as National Public Safety Telecommunications Week, proclamation for the Week of the Young Child, April 16th through the 20th, and proclamation of National Work Zone Awareness Week, April 9 through 28, and notice of intent to award contract to Adams Construction for primary extension paving.
Make a motion we approve the consent agenda as requested to...
I missed two. Sorry, didn't turn the page. Scheduled public hearing on for May 22nd, 2018 for conditional use permit by Safe Haven Family Services, Inc., agent for Quorum Holding Corporation for a single-family residential dwelling at 2175 Palmer Street Northeast, tax map number 466-A-17. In the B3 General Business Zoning District. The property is designed as business commercial on the future land use map of the 2013 Christiansburg Comprehensive Plan, and reschedule a public hearing for from April 10th to April 24th, 2018 for the closure of Hickok Street Northwest to vehicular traffic from West Main to Commerce.
Okay.
Just want to point out the amount for the paving contract for Adams. The amount is $698,076.76.
$698,000, give or take.
Of that amount, how much is VDOT money in round figures?
Some of it is general fund, about
No.
roughly 50%.
About half. Okay, I'll make a motion we approve the consent agenda as presented, removing item B for later action, discussion and action.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any comments, questions? Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. Councilman Bishop?
Aye.
Councilman Collins?
Aye.
Councilman Hubbard?
Aye.
Councilwoman Sykes?
Aye.
Councilman Showalter?
Aye.
Councilman Stokes?
Aye.
Thank you. That is 6-0. Citizens' comments. This is the portion of the meeting we open it up to the general public and citizens to discuss issues, items, or questions that they may have with things going on within the town. Is there anyone here that would like to speak?
My name is William Kraft.
Craft Self-Storage, Craft Real Estate Holdings in Christiansburg. I live on Madison Lane in Montgomery County in Blacksburg. My family has had a business presence or residential presence in the town of Christiansburg since 1990. My father was town attorney. I believe I've got some perspective on what I'm going to talk about. Christiansburg is getting, in my opinion, and I've heard it from a number of others, is being not friendly towards small business. I don't have enough time to talk about everything I want to tonight, so I'm going to do the rest on another night. But I'm going to give 3 examples that I'm particularly upset about. One is a repeat from last year, and that's that beautiful sign across Main Street advertising your shredding, town of Christiansburg. In bold black letters across the bottom, it says, "No businesses, please." Last year when that sign was up, we spoke. I spoke with the Chamber of Commerce, I spoke with several people. Not one person indicated to me that they thought I was wrong in finding that a little quid-offish for small businesses, especially it's displayed across Main Street. The second reason I want to discuss my feeling that small businesses are not as welcome in the town of Christiansburg goes to this stormwater fee, and that's what I'll have a lot of questions about in the future. When that first fee came out, I had a meeting in this building with the 2 gentlemen that were in charge of it. They're no longer with the town. I voiced my problems with it as regards the storage facility, and I voiced my problems with it as regards to Christiansburg Presbyterian Church. Our fee is $98 a month. And I told them that's quite impactful for a church that runs on a deficit every month. Their response to me was, and I quote, "Why don't you one Sunday a month have a special offering?" I found that to be insulting, and I was quite put off by that. The previous town manager did apologize for it when I spoke to him about it. But I think it's indicative of the thought process that permeates this building. And that is, small businesses have a money tree that we can go and pick from anytime a fee or a tax comes our way. Or if you're an entity such as an organization, you can raise your dues. But these fees and taxes have 0 impact on us. Again, I think that enhances the opinion that some are starting to vocalize that Christiansburg is not friendly towards small business. And finally, the last thing I want to say is the Starlight Theater. Not about any of the things that's been discussed before, but what bothers me the most is that you never had a chance when you brought this charge against her. You weren't going to win, and I think you knew that. I think your counsel advised you that you would not win. She had no choice but to dig in her pocket, hire an attorney at her expense to prevail in the courtroom. So is Craft Self-Storage next? My mobile home parks next? Who's the next business that's going to get targeted unfairly at their expense to have to defend themselves against your actions? I think all of those things add up to a problem for small businesses coming to this town. I think you do a great job of trying to get big businesses in. I don't think you do that good a job for the small businesses that are already here. Thank you.
Mr. Kraft, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Your first item, the sign, can you explain which sign you're speaking of again?
It's the one across Main Street.
The banner.
The shred.
The banner for
Advertising
for special
your,
events.
Shred-a-thon.
Okay.
And I thought last year when that same banner was up, that was not conducive as a small business owner to see that across the bottom of it.
I see what you're saying. The shred-a-thon, okay.
And when I repeated that, people, they agreed.
Okay, no, I
And there
understand.
it is again this year.
No, I understand your point now. Thank you.
You know, I want to comment on that banner too. My wife was a small business owner, and every year I remember that she and I would bring, she was an accountant, a CPA, and after 7 years, you can get rid of, of papers, and we would do that. But there was some concern, they really had no businesses, because if you are a large business, they don't have the facilities there to handle all that. All right. Now, this could be a point that maybe we should think about. It's on that banner, instead of saying no businesses, nobody can bring things over so many tons or whatever like that, and make it a little bit more clarified a little bit more. And it would, I take it that would please you more, and you probably would fall into that lesser amount.
I just see myself, when you see a sign of any sort that says no businesses please, as a business owner, I find that to be a sign I don't want to look at.
Yeah.
Shules, a lot of people have shred-a-thons, and you don't see those conditions on theirs.
Thank you, Mr. Kraft. Anyone else? Hearing none, I will close the citizens' comment portion. We'll go into introductions and presentations. Melissa Dimmitt, Director of Public Relations Department. You have a new employee for us, is that correct?
I do. Really quickly, before I get to the very exciting introduction, I just want everybody in the room to know that we're having some audio problems with the camera. And Anika's being a champ back there and trying to hold the cord up. We're also recording on a phone to try to pick up the audio if it doesn't pick up with the video. We're not so sure how the video and audio is going to work together. So doing our best, but we will definitely fix that before next meeting if it does not work. But on to the exciting things. I'm excited to introduce our first ever events coordinator and full-time farmers market manager, Casey Jenkins. Casey graduated from Virginia Tech in 2014 with a BA in communication and 2 minors in English and philosophy. He most recently worked at the Valentine Richmond History Museum, and prior to that, he worked at George Washington's Mount Vernon in Alexandria. His passions and interests include hiking, sports, music, animals, museums, and history, but above all, he loves people and working to connect people together to build a stronger community. And I just have to say that Casey came on board just 2 weeks ago, March 26th, and he's worked pretty nonstop to get up to speed on the farmers market because our opening day is May 3rd, as you all know. He's booked some really exciting entertainment and programming for the market this year and has a lot of new ideas both for the market and other future events. So we're very excited and things to come.
Casey, welcome aboard.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Do we have a representative here from Christiansburg High School tonight? Do not?
They had a soccer game.
Okay. Next is a recognition, and Melissa, are you presenting this one? Am I presenting it?
Me and Brad.
Okay, you and Brad, very good. Recognition of Parks and Recreation employee Alan Johnson for receiving the Martin Luther King Community Service Award from the Montgomery County, Radford City, Floyd County branch of the NAACP.
Yes, and I have a certificate here that
Alan?
I will read, but I'm going to let Brad say a few words and then we'll present it to Alan.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. It gives me great pleasure to say a few words about a valuable employee within the town of Christiansburg. Mr. Alan Johnson was awarded the Martin Luther King Jr. Community Service Award in our area recently. We wanted to make sure that Mr. Johnson was recognized for winning this great service award, also by recognizing the impact that he's provided to our community through his efforts, dedication, service, and everything through the Christiansburg Parks and Recreation Department. Mr. Johnson began working for the town of Christiansburg in 1970. If you calculate that up, that's 48 years that Alan's been with us. He started out working as a gym supervisor at the Armory for basketball games. And then one day when he was there was an official that didn't show up. And Mr. Gilmore came to him and said, "You want to officiate?" And for that, and for then, the history's what it is, you know. And He's been officiating for 48 years for us. Alan has mainly officiated youth and adult basketball and volleyball during those 48 years. In 2016, we hired Alan to serve in our department as a recreation assistant. So basically, he's worked through the recreation center, through Park Raider, Kiwanis Park, anything recreation related, Alan's been involved with us. The impact that Alan Johnson has made within our community really can't be measured. He has exceeded all standards when it comes to community involvement and the service. And above all this, he does it with a smile and a pleasant demeanor every day. Whenever you come to see Alan, he makes your day better. And that's just the way it is with Alan Johnson. Keep in mind, during those 48 years of service to our community, he held a full-time job at Verizon for 35 years and retired from there. He's performed many different singing engagements over the years. He sang as a lead singer since 1997 during our 4th of July celebration. He first started with Don and Adele tunes, and now he's currently singing with Little Something Something. Alan told me that his goal was to work for 50 years within the Parks and Recreation Department. I told him today that he better up that goal a little bit. I'm not going to let it go anywhere. Christiansburg's slogan is the place to be. And the reason that this is true is because of individuals like Alan Johnson. He makes Christiansburg a place to be. He has and still makes Christiansburg a better place to live, work, and play. I'm honored to be able to have worked with such an outstanding person as Alan Johnson. The impact that he has made throughout our community speaks volumes, and these impacts will be received for many years down the road. I'm a better person standing here today because of Alan Johnson, and I'm sure that there are many in this room that feel the same way. Alan, thank you for everything that you've done for the town of Christiansburg and its citizens. Thank you.
Don't go anywhere.
Alan.
Mr. Mayor, could you come around for a photo op, and we'll get Mr. Mayor and Alan, and the certificate representing says, this certificate hereby recognizes Alan Johnson for receiving the MLK Community Service Award for the Montgomery County, Bradford City, Floyd County branch of the NAACP. This award is a reflection of your years of dedication and service with Christiansburg's Parks and Recreation, Ashbury United Methodist Church, the NAACP, and throughout the New River Valley. Thank you for positively representing our town and working to make a difference in your community. I'll allow Brad to award it to you, but let's get a photo.
Can you three sing a little song for us?
Little Otis Redding, little Otis Redding.
I'm slipping. Alan, thank you very much.
I'd like to say one thing about this man. I coached for quite a few years up here, and there's only one thing a coach and players want, and that's somebody to treat you equal all the way through. And this man did, with a smile on his face. I used to go to him and say, Alan, we're buddies, aren't we? Don't start that stuff. Anyway, he is a first-class individual. And if you hadn't heard him sing, you need to listen to him sing.
Since we're making confessions, I will tell you that back in my younger days, when I was still a little athletic, Alan threw me out of a basketball game one night because of my temper. So thank you, Alan.
I may want to stick around tonight.
You may want to stick around. I may need you tonight.
May I say one thing? I would just like to take the opportunity to thank the town as well. When I started out, like I said, it was just sort of something to do, part-time, but it became something that I was really wanted to grab hold of, and nothing has made me more prouder than to have seen over the years kids that have grown up, and a couple of them are grandparents, and have come to me and said, you were officiating when I played. Mm-hmm. And to have seen guys and girls both that have gone on to play some college ball and just moved on with their lives. So thank you, Christiansburg, as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have Christopher Sanchez, project organizer with Christiansburg Institute Incorporated, to present in regards to Christiansburg Institute request. Mr. Sanchez.
Chris and I are going to speak together on this. Good evening, and thank you for providing this time for Christiansburg Institute. My name is Bob Leonard. I chair the board of directors of Christiansburg Institute. In that capacity, I speak on behalf of 10 people on the board, 8 of whom are alumni or descendant children of alumni. Our board answers to some 500 living alumni, many of whom live across the country, while many live here in the New River and Roanoke valleys. I want to say that I'm glad and proud to be here with Chris. The board is most pleased to have worked daily with Chris for the last 12 months. He is our professional staff project organizer, and Chris and I will share in this presentation. The story of Christiansburg Institute, the tangible artifacts of its history, and the remaining campus and buildings are national treasures, reflecting in vivid, specific detail our country's social history for the last 152 years. We appeal to you, the Town Council of Christiansburg, to join with us the broad range of CI alumni across the New River Valley and beyond. Christiansburg Institute Coalition, which includes the Alumni Association, Christiansburg Institute Incorporated, and the Old Hill School Community Center, and with Montgomery County, in strong partnership to secure these treasures, revitalizing them as valuable and widely accessible public assets, serving the needs and interests of the town, the county, and the region. Now, this is an ambitious project. It has enormous potential. It asks a great deal of us. For many years, Christiansburg Institute attempted to accomplish this project by itself. We made some initial progress. We made some mistakes. Every step has been honest and has been hard-earned. Over this time, we have come to learn this project is more than ours. It is more than the combined organizations of the alumni of the school. It is more than what we can do by ourselves. We seek a partnership with the town of Christiansburg and with Montgomery County. We are making this very same request of the County Board of Supervisors this year. We are open to the creation of an equitable authority with fair representation of all parties to make the best possible use of these national treasures for broad public use. As a place of community gathering, well equipped as a place of community learning and exchange, and a place of recreation, and a place of social reconciliation. For the last 14 months, CI Incorporated has focused on building our organizational capacity so that we are fully prepared to shoulder our share of the work ahead. We have listened to professional advice from across the country. We have acted on that advice. We have formed a careful strategy, met our yearly basic operational and overhead costs, and built our budget, expanded our programmatic capacity, prepared ourselves to partner with allied organizations, and contracted a part-time paid professional. We've worked with Chris now for a year. He is fully integrated into our organization. He has made it his business to develop a deep knowledge of our history. He is connected with the alumni, personally and organizationally. He has become a standard bearer, working daily in the community around programming, revitalization, and fundraising. I'd like for you to hear directly from Chris himself where we are today and where we're headed. Please.
Good evening. Thank you for giving us time tonight to share where CI is at and where we intend to move. If you see here on the presentation, I'd like to just give you an update over the past 12 months and the growth we've experienced as an organization. So as you know, the coalition, which consists of the Hill School or the Christiansburg Community Center, CI Inc., and then the Christiansburg Institute Alumni Association, Had a summit meeting 2017 in January, and since then there have been 7 meetings, and currently that coalition is in the process of crafting an African American summer camp, and Daniel Thorpe, who is a professor at Virginia Tech, is taking a leadership role in organizing that summer camp in coordination with the coalition. And then more recently, Showing Up for Racial Justice is an anti-racist organization in the New River Valley, but it's chapter-based across the country. We were invited to present at their annual meeting, and we did that. Myself, Mr. Leonard, and Rita Irving were there. And then after that annual meeting, they actually themselves organized a open mic dance party fundraiser with tech students to celebrate and promote the history of CI. We're currently engaged with the NAACP, just exploring how we might best be working together around the preservation of this remarkable history. And really exciting, the Montgomery County Public School System has shown very strong interest in CI. Superintendent Dr. Mark Meyer, they've moved forward and purchased a bus they'd like to outfit as a traveling mobile exhibit containing CI artifacts that would go across the state as well as locally in Montgomery County. Dr. Meyer came to an alumni meeting and met with the alumni. We're very excited to know of this and eager to work together with the Montgomery County Public School System. More recently, the library system, we had an exhibit in the Blacksburg Library featuring artifacts from the school. So we had a football helmet, images of students, campus life, a really cool mail bag, like a CI mail bag. And that was there for the month of February. And right now, we're actually working with the Montgomery County Floyd Library System to co-open the public the museum that CI has. So we have a smokehouse museum on the property off Scattergood Drive next to the historic Edgar A. Long building. It's small in size, but very powerful and very impactful. And I view it, and I know the alumni view it, and the community who I give tours of the building and into the museum are very impacted by that museum. We want to open that to the public. So we're working with the library system to do event programming around that opening. So this will be May 19th. We'll be with the library on the property. They'll have a tent set up. We'll have related activities, and then in the evening, we'll be followed with a panel discussion featuring alumni at the public library with a guest speaker. And we want to continue working with the library system to promote this history. And then another huge victory we had, the New River Community Foundation. We applied for a grant and we were awarded. And we just want to note that and celebrate that. The Community Foundation really felt the vision that has been articulated from alumni, and we bring some new folks into the fold who have built upon that vision. They were very excited. We've recently established a development committee which is tasked with capital fundraising and organizational fundraising. I'll get more into that later. It's a 7-member committee and we meet 2 times monthly. I just recently contracted with 2 student interns, both from Virginia Tech, who will be doing museum programming and educational development around CI events in the community. And right now, we're working with Radford University, an advertising and marketing class, is using CI as a client. They're going to be developing any materials we might need to launch a fundraising campaign and really promote CI on social media, and to kind of build upon the social media component. Something that I've brought to the table and in working with the alumni is getting CI active online on social media. So we recently launched a new Christiansburg Institute website. I encourage everyone to check out that website. It's really, really cool. There's a lot of oral histories there from alumni. You can hear about memories from the school. And we also have an active Facebook page. I've put the links there for reference. Please visit. And then at Cooking Around the World, which is an annual event that we host, it's a multicultural food tasting experience. We added some programming to include an open mic, and we invited VT Expressions. It's a student group on campus that are performers, essentially storytelling, music, poetry. They came out with about 5 different poets, and they performed. We also had vendors booths, and we invited the African Student Association from Radford. They came out and they were selling dashikis, and were really involved in the day of the event. And then while that was happening at that event, we had MANNERS, which is the abbreviation, Minorities in Agricultural, Natural Resources, and Related Sciences. They came out and they were, you know, the hard labor of putting out tables, setting up chairs, making sure the event was being run, you know, properly, and they've shown a strong interest in continuing to work with CI. I'd like to move into, Bob is going to come here and he's going to share a little bit about where we are at financially and kind of clear the record on some financial questions that continue to be raised in the community.
All this is being done by a very small group of people. Christiansburg Institute Incorporated is a board, as I mentioned, 8. It might be able to be more, but 8 folks who have been volunteering their time over the course of many years to move forward in a very ambitious project. It is, you can't imagine what it feels like to have a young man come in and be able to do what you just listened to in terms of making ourselves present and valuable in the community. I think it's important to acknowledge the role that Christiansburg has had in our life, which is central. The town of Christiansburg has contributed $10,000 per year to CI Inc. from 2007 through 2014, 8 years. That adds up to $80,000. Each year, that contribution represented lifeblood of the organization. For most of those years, that funding supported general operating costs. Rent, phone, storage, supplies, programming, such as Cooking Around the World, and personnel, which for many years was nominal. Throughout that time, we consistently and accurately reported on the use of those funds. We've provided IRS Form 990s, which offer a transparent accounting of our organizational financial status. In 2014, we made a strategic choice to change our regular request from support for general operating costs to the very specific costs of a consultant contract. With the town's support, along with the county, we were able to contract with Dr. David Moore, a principal at the Institute of Policy and Governance at Virginia Tech, in 2014, 15, and 16. Dr. Moore helped us grow as an organization. He helped us develop a preliminary business plan and an associated call for proposals, significantly revised our approach to you and the county and the general public, all of which resulted in our 2017 summit, where we presented ourselves to you. That's a statement of our financial relationship with you to town. Of course, we'd be more than happy to hear questions, but I'd like to add a context of our overall financial history. Christiansburg Institute Incorporated was created by the alumni in 1976. Under the leadership, that is incorrect. Christiansburg Institute Incorporated was created by the alumni in 1996. Under the leadership of Elaine Dow Carter, who passed away just this past March 17. CI Inc. developed an exceptional vision for the revitalization of the school that attracted a lot of attention and support. I know that her vision is a good reason why you began supporting CI Inc. This support included donations from individuals, several grants of specific projects that were successfully completed, and a large grant of some $300,000 facilitated by then Representative Rick Boucher. This particular grant supported the architectural and engineering studies, drawings, renderings, and reports required for major construction, reconstruction projects such as ours. These professional documents were in turn submitted in support of a request to the U.S. Department of Agriculture requesting a low-interest loan of some $1.6 million towards an overall project cost at that time of $6 million. Because of those supporting materials, the USDA loan was in fact offered based on the strength of those documents. Unfortunately, the ambition of the underlying vision was not matched with a viable plan to raise the remaining necessary $4.4 million. Our effort faltered. Our history, the history of this country, the history of this school, and the history of its amazing alumni, however, is based on getting back up when you fall. That's the mark of success. Getting back up when you fall. And we've gotten back up. People wonder, where did the $300,000 go? What happened to the $1 million? I remember when I was first on the board, within 2 weeks of being on the board, I went over to the Edgar A. Long building and stood with a group of people with a great big check that was almost the size of this wall, posted up on foam core, as if we had $1 million. Those questions left unanswered raise rumors, speculations. Speaking the truth is simpler and very important to hear. We fortunately did not sign that loan for $1,600,000. That debt was never incurred. The $300,000 went to studies, designs, reports, which won us the loan offer, but left us with only the documents. Those documents, I must say, are still good. They're dated. As we get back up on our feet, you can believe me, we are using them. If you have questions afterwards, I look forward to it.
I do have a couple are you done yet? Or
Yes,
Chris
sir. We can
Sanchez?
take questions now if you'd
I
like.
wrote down a couple brief questions just to give you an update. I appreciate you coming, both with you plural. And some of us have talked to you privately. I'm not sure, maybe you've talked with every council member, but where our budget stands right now, your request has failed at a vote of 4-3, but that's preliminary right now. It's not our final budget.
Mm-hmm.
Three of us felt that right now it's not in our budget, your request. But I have a couple questions that I think are very germane right now. You spoke of an authority. That's something different right now. Could you speak to how willing or open, or can you talk really briefly about that? That's something new from previous requests.
Absolutely.
Yes. That's my first question.
Absolutely. We are willing to enter into conversation to find out how best to do that. We would look forward to that. It is a reasonable way to proceed if we're talking about really significant partnering.
Right.
And, partner doesn't mean you send money, we'll do whatever.
Right.
That is not a partnership. Putting our heads together in real ways to develop two things. I will say governance, but also planning. What does the town want? What does any given partner that might be in this, what does Virginia Tech or the county want? And let's see if we can't put our heads together and plan for that. And out of that conversation, at the same time, allow for us to figure out a good way to provide an authority over the matter. Okay,
that's the first question. And the coalition that has formed, which is very encouraging also, the coalition that has formed, is this similar authority, or this potential authority, also, is it just Edgar A. Long building, is it also the old Hill School, or where is that?
Coalition is an agreement.
What's on the table here, I guess?
Sure.
It's a fair question.
Yep. The coalition is a coalition of Christiansburg Institute Incorporated, the organization I represent, the alumni, Christiansburg Institute Alumni Association, and the community center.
Beautiful.
It's now the old Hill School Community Center.
Okay.
And we share a common history.
Right.
The school on the hill is the original building for CI. We expanded, and there's no reason in the world for us to be sitting there not talking to each other or not working together. We have a shared history, we want to share stories, and we have a shared purpose. So that's established, and we're learning how to work together through specific projects.
I understand. Okay, third question. Thank you, Mr. Leonard, or Dr. Leonard. Last question is
fine.
Okay, it's a sign of respect. The last question is,
What is the status of Montgomery County right now on the match?
They're considering the same matter.
I have not gone the next step.
Chris can speak to that.
Yeah, so
Okay.
we gave a presentation to the county last month.
Right.
We requested $75,000 from the county budget.
Right.
And I know what's considered right now in the budget is $10,000 is what's being recommended.
Okay.
And I think they vote on the 16th of this month. So we presented, we've given tours of the building, we've shared similar language that we're sharing here today,
Mhm.
and we're really hoping that they'll, see value in what we've discussed and support what we're doing.
Okay. Thank you both very much.
Any other questions?
I'd like to say a few words. I really appreciate you coming in and doing this fine presentation here tonight. And I thought it was interesting how you brought up that council has, I'm not sure the right word is given, but anyway, allocated $80,000 to your operation over the years. And I have been on council for most of that time. And I cannot remember seeing anything that came out of that $80,000 over the time. Now, I did take a tour of the building 4 years ago.
Something like that.
4 years ago, and when we took the tour, I was given the feeling that something was going to be done to try to, fix it up. Sometimes it gets me, my feeling here is, there's a lot of people that want different revenue and want different support, and we want to support things. But we would like to see something where it's going to go, or maybe, I'm not even sure if I've seen many, I think that they said that you're going to do maybe a picnic or a reunion down there by the building to generate some funds. And I don't think I saw that. And I've never really seen anything done, to generate revenue or generate interest. And that's just my comment.
Yeah, I get a lot of that feedback in the community. Folks often wonder, funding has come into CI historically, nothing has happened to the building. So I can speak specifically to the context of town funding. $10,000 per year for 8 years is $80,000. Now, when we're talking about the Edgar Long building, we're talking about a historic building that's under an easement. Any work done to that building needs to reflect the historical integrity of the original structure. So, for example, 10 windows facing the north side of the building, that right there is a $13,000 project. The roof, which was later in the presentation but I can address now, that's a $150,000 project. So it's difficult to take $10,000 and do anything meaningful on the building. What has instead been done, and what Bob has referenced, is really building our budget, expanding our organizational capacity, and bringing on consultants to get us in a position to really make positive change in our plan to renovate the building. So I understand what you're saying. I do hear that a lot. I just want to pin and be mindful that building is historic and it's expensive to do anything, and $10,000 coming in once per year is just not sufficient.
Have you thought about some fundraising ideas yourself?
Absolutely. So that's a lot of what I do. So with our development committee, which is a 7-person committee, we have representation from alumni, some folks from Virginia Tech, and then community members. We are actively pursuing a number of grants. We've applied to the African American Cultural Heritage Fund, requesting $150,000 for capital funding. We'll be applying to the Andrew Mellon Foundation, Alternate Roots, which is an arts-based non-for-profit. So a part of the development committee's central task is fundraising. So we just did a pilot online fundraising crowdsourcing. We raised $2,000 in 2 days via Facebook. We'll be utilizing Indiegogo, which is a crowdsourcing platform online, to launch a much larger scale national campaign. We'll be doing that next month, and we're participating in Give Big NRV coming up on the 18th. We're registered to do that. So our development committee is very actively pursuing funding. We're not just looking to the town or the county. We're looking for foundation money. We're looking at a grassroots organizing campaign to raise those funds.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It appears to me that Virginia Tech has some type of an advisory interest in this, but do they have any financial backing into this program, and are they willing to commit any?
I work pretty closely now with Vice President, Associate Provost Lynn Pratt-Clark. She is very aware of this project and this organization, and has expressed continued interest in finding ways to work together. That sounds not what I'd like to say. I'd like to say that they've committed money and whatnot. We have to build that with them, and work with the town and the county is part of that. Putting this partnership together with the entities is about getting all of you to say together. And that's sometimes shuttle diplomacy, I think they call it. Talking with you, trying to get the county to hear where you're at, trying to get you to hear where the county's at. We're working a lot. And I have to say that Mr. Hubbard's observations are both accurate in terms of what do you see, but they also reflect the reality that 8 people working as volunteers can hold an organization together through programming and events, or they can raise money for restoring the building, but we couldn't do both. And it seemed more important from year to year that we maintain and develop our capacity to be present in the community without the building, and put all our efforts into having Cooking Around the World, Rainbow Luncheon, gospel concert, and a variety of other actual assets for the community as we develop our strategies for tackling this very big project. And there's no question about it, but you play a key role in this. You kept us going, and now we're saying we're ready to move forward in a concerted way, and your participation and partnership is critical, along with the county, along with Virginia Tech.
Putting an authority together is something very different, and one thing we've talked about in the past to answer the mayor's question is perhaps Virginia Tech would play a role as a partner, as leasing space there for students to do advanced studies, things like this. But simply put, one option I'm hearing tonight is that there could be an authority that would have some visioning, some control, some accountability, and some guaranteed access to these buildings for public use, which is different. And then what was the other point I wanted to make? Oh, and then one option for council, just for consideration, could be a X dollars per their request, contingent on them being able to raise the other $75,000. And quite honestly, at this point, it wouldn't matter who it came from. If it came from Virginia Tech, if it came from Montgomery County or your crowd, Indiegogo or whatever. But that's just one possibility that we would consider. But the authority is new and different, and I think has a lot of merit to it because that puts people at the table to work as a group.
Absolutely.
And that's it. Thank you.
I would say that I read the new guidelines for the town as requiring a match in order for us to accept the dollars, and that we would need to demonstrate that. So contingent on the match is a given, and we would value that because it leverages other monies. That's the way this world works. That commitment from the town with match from somewhere else would leverage that somewhere else.
And the last thing I'd like to say, and this is probably the most important thing, is, and I have bought Dan's the Facing Freedom and heard Dr. Thorpe's lecture. He's just fantastic. But both of these buildings are invaluable treasures to this community, and sometimes it's hard to see that when you're around, when you live here. And I strongly feel this has become a passion of mine, second to the Huckleberry Trail since I came on council, because I didn't know Christiansburg Institute. I didn't know anything about it until I got on council and learned about it because I grew up in Blacksburg. But these buildings are treasures, and we, if there's anything at all we can do to preserve the history, there's no substitute for going someplace and seeing where something happened, if it's Forest Theater or just wherever these events happened. And both buildings could play a key role here. Anyway, I spoke too much, but they're invaluable treasures, and we, if there's anything we can do to preserve continue to tell the story and have these buildings used in the community, everybody wins.
I think there is a contingency in our grant application as long as it's a historic building. We did that so we could include the community center and CI but I think that's interesting what Mr. Stipes has stated about matching funds this year. I think that's something we should consider, but for a future discussion. I saw that the coalition, and this coalition is the same one that all of this council attended. I think it was February in 2017.
Yes.
January?
Did you say January?
Well,
Yeah. It was cold. It was
It was cold. You're exactly right. It was cold.
Wait, cold.
yeah.
I mean, I thought it was a great meeting, and the turnout from all of council and, of course, our town administration being there. When I spoke to Chris about a month ago, I was pleased to hear that there were additional meetings for the coalition. I would like if you're able to, if there's future meetings, to at least notify us so that one or two members, hopefully, or if we have time, can show up and sort of, the key is education, see what's going on. But coming out of that first meeting, one of the main things that at least caught my attention was the creation of a legitimate board. And Mr. Stipes hit on it about somebody who can, it's a board that can borrow or apply for grants. And when you talked about the authority tonight, that interests me. I would like to see what we have to do to go forward, and how can we, as a town, sort of contribute to get that conversation or get that authority formed.
That's right. I will say that CI Inc.'s board is legitimate, can do all those things. We've been prudent, careful.
It wasn't a slight towards CI's board. I think the coalition involves more than just CI.
Correct.
Several different alumni associations and the community center.
Absolutely.
That were sort of fractured, that came together that night.
That's
that was
correct.
very impressive to me.
That's correct. Yeah. I also just want to say, you mentioned Huckleberry Trail. I know that there's a proposal into VDOT for the Huckleberry Trail to have its trailhead on our campus. That was incredibly gratifying to hear. We see it as a statement of interest. We would like to see it backed up with this kind of a partnership so that we're working together on how we develop the campus with the town's interest, the county's interest, and the alumni's interest all coming together.
That's a good point, because Brad Epperly is here, and he knows more than any of us about this particular thing. But there's going to be a parking lot.
Yeah.
It's going to be very close to the building, and I'm not sure it'll be 50 cars.
I'm not sure. Wayne, you got numbers?
No, it's
But
smaller amount.
Yeah, but anyway, I think that will be a really big support for you to have that, and so you can see the town, we are trying to do some things here to, just like you mentioned, having a trailhead right there, that will be a big factor. And I just wanted to add one more point, and what Brad Stipes is saying here is not just hot air. He really does feel that way. He does sincerely feel that, and that is one of the big things that's on his mind, to help you people and to make this building a success, And it's a big piece of history for this town.
That's right.
And I think basically all council feels that way too.
I think that's right.
And we're hoping too that you people will grab the reins too. And if we see you driving the cart, then we'll be glad to help push it.
Very good.
Glad to hear that.
I think Mr. Showalter has a final closing statement.
Do
Is that
I?
correct? Yes, a final
You have
closing
some more.
statement.
You have some more you want to.
So this page here on the presentation was just about the use of the building and kind of what we imagine. This vision has been developed before I came on board, and then as we welcome new folks into CI, We've kind of built upon the existing visions that have preceded us. We really want it to be kind of in line with what's been a community asset that's open to the public and accessible to the public. We don't want this to be a closed building. We want this to be a lively campus that's accessible for all community members. We're really exploring what it might look like to have a community garden. I mean, we're talking about 4 acres of land this building sits on. We can program that and we can make use of that, and we don't need the building operational to grow a garden. So we're exploring a community garden in a community kitchen in the basement of the building. And something that we've seen in Jefferson, the Jefferson City School Center in Charlottesville, it was an African American primary school founded in 1865 as a part of Reconstruction South. They've since preserved that building and developed it, and they've converted classrooms into nonprofit office space for lease. So this building here, the Edgar Long building, is over 9,000 square feet. So as a part of that sustainability plan, we do intend to allocate space for commercial lease to businesses to take place in the building itself. And then as you can see here, of course, a museum that honors the history of Christiansburg Institute, and then just flexible meeting space throughout the building where we can do events, like larger scale events that are fully equipped and outfitted to handle that kind of programming.
Thank you.
And the do-nothing alternative is the buildings will continue to dilapidate and disappear from the face.
Yeah, so
the do-nothing
that's
alternative.
the state of the building right now. That's the
Yeah, there it is.
Long
And then-
building, built in 1927. It's the last remaining building of previously 11 buildings that existed across the 185-acre campus. The Christiansburg Institute Alumni Association now owns 4 acres of that original land, and this is the last building. It's the only one of the approximate 11 named after an African American. So it holds significant value symbolically and culturally for the Black community and the larger community in Montgomery County.
So it's really up to us. I mean, I'm glad Steve mentioned the trailhead going there. That's basically what you'll see unless somebody jumps in and starts a revitalization.
We're looking everywhere we can. We're looking under every rock, every turn we can. We would hope for the town to help lead in this, but we're not waiting for you. We simply are asking for your partnership. I just want to close by saying that Chris Sanchez, as you may well begin to understand, has earned the trust and endorsement of the Board of CI Inc. and the Alumni Association over the last year. Working with his talents and abilities together with the lifelong commitment of the alumni and the volunteering of CI board members, we invite you and Montgomery County to journey with us into what we believe can be a fantastic future for these assets in our community. Thank you.
I did have one other thing I wanted
Did you have a question, Marissa?
I did.
Okay.
And I'm still new to learning all about Christiansburg Institute, but on one of your first slides, there's something that I wrote down because I just couldn't shake it off.
Sure.
And that was the African American Summer Camp.
Yep.
I don't want to make any assumptions that it is only for African American children. Could you clarify that?
Sure, slightly misstated. It's an African American history summer camp.
Oh, okay. That works.
Yeah. And
I don't
the
think
idea,
I saw that part on there.
It is slightly misstated on there because we didn't get the typewriter. No, we don't use typewriter.
Okay, so I'm glad I asked. So it's a summer camp for understanding the history.
The idea to pilot is a 1-week camp opportunity, day camp opportunity to invite young people between ages of 9 and 12 to go to sites in Montgomery County and neighboring areas, 2 African American history sites. So the Hill School, Edgar Long Building, the Oddfellows Hall, Wake Forest Community Museum, the Harrison Museum in Roanoke, maybe even go over to the Booker T. Washington birthplace. But this would be organized in a cooperative relationship between Department of History on PT campus and the alumni through the coalition. And the idea would be for a pilot to get somewhere between 12 and 24 students for a week-long, 5-day experience. And it would be not sitting and listening to lectures. It would be designed for young people. It would include trips to the pool, picnics, but it would also include going to these sites and hearing from alumni about the experiences and from elders in the African American community about the experience of growing up here in Montgomery County.
Thank you for that.
You bet.
I
Thanks
think
for
the one
asking.
word just made a huge difference.
Huge. Thank you for asking the question.
Mr. Showalter.
And before you sit down, I'll end it with
This
this.
is great.
You talked about events, right?
Mhm.
What can the town do for you? Well, luckily, Casey, if you'd stand up, you've already been, Chris, this is Casey, our new events coordinator, which was introduced earlier tonight. And Justin, you're not going to get out of this because you're a member of DCI. If you could stand up, if you guys could get together, I think that would, definitely assist in what sort of events draw the most money. And as I always say, Christiansburg residents are always, I'm not going to say desperate, they're always interested in going to a great event downtown.
Well, thank you, Henry. I have to say it's hard to do to keep ahead of you, but Casey is out ahead of you. He just met with the coalition on Friday.
Excellent. Thank you, Casey.
We had a really good conversation about just exactly what you're talking about.
And as we said earlier, Casey likes museums.
Yes.
So there you go.
Yeah. So it was a real pleasure to meet him on Friday, and we all look forward to continuing that conversation.
Thank you.
Chris, if you would give me a call sometime, I have an idea for you.
Okay.
And maybe our new council member, our newest council member would appreciate maybe a visit of the building to just go inside and take a look. It's amazing, and you can feel the history when you walk in there, the smells and you can visualize some of what's transpired in there. But I would recommend maybe that at least she's able to have it. Okay.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
You bet.
Next, we have Wayne Nelson to provide an update for the NRV Regional Water Authority. And I believe you have a handout there in front of you somewhere. Oh.
Thank you, Mayor Barber. Good evening, members of council. It's my pleasure as Town of Christiansburg representative on the NRV Regional Water Authority to provide you this update tonight. Update tonight will focus on the projects that we have underway. First, a little bit of background. In 2013, result of the Phase 2 joiner study that was completed in June of 2012, Montgomery County joined the Blacksburg Christiansburg UPI Water Authority, and we then became the NRV Regional Water Authority. Montgomery County then agreed to purchase all water from the authority. I'll give you a 20,000-foot view of what's going on here. This heavy black line represents our artery from the filter plant that pumps water to Christiansburg, to Blacksburg, and to Virginia Tech. And you can see that our systems are well defined. The PSA, on the other hand, their systems here in the blue patch, they're spread out within the county, and that poses a bit of a challenge. As part of this joiner study, one of what I view as a positive outcome was the concept of redundant feeds to serve both Blacksburg and Virginia Tech and Christiansburg, the current members, which also benefits the county as a whole. This extension here is the Prices Fork transmission main that provides the redundant feed to Blacksburg and Virginia Tech. And then this is the Plum Creek transmission main that will provide Christiansburg our redundant feed. We're zooming down to a 2,000-foot level, more detail here, but currently this is an extension from Route 114 near the filter plant that extends up Prices Fork and ties into the end of the Prices Fork water system. This extension here is the Town of Christiansburg redundant feed, And that's broken down into 2 phases. Phase 1 is this here in the red, and phase 2, which will come later, is in the blue. And the first phase serves as connection for the Plum Creek extension. So currently, the Prices Fork extension that was the low-hanging fruit. It was a relatively short extension, but some challenging terrain. And it was designed and now currently under construction. Expected to be completed this summer. The estimated cost was $3.75 million. The bid came in at 4.1 and some change. I think I'm going to touch on this a little bit here shortly, that this right here is somewhat indicative of the bidding climate that we're all experiencing right now. Our western route, our Plum Creek redundant fee, is currently in design. As I mentioned, it's 2 phases, but the engineers are designing both phases now and securing all easements for both phases. It's estimated here that that project is again under design and will estimate to be completed in fall, winter of 2019. The phase 1 cost is estimated at just over $3 million, and the phase 2 extension is just over $6 million. I wanted to provide this slide for you. This is the phase 1 of the Plum Creek extension that currently it ties into authority water main that currently is in the Diamond Hills area. It'll extend off that authority main and will extend through the Meadows, former Meadows golf course. They originally had planned to run the main between the creek and the railroad tracks, Norfolk Southern Railroad, until we met and talked about our plans to extend sewer in the same vicinity, and found it beneficial to move that project away from the creek, away from the railroad, and provide alignment in conjunction with our sewer extension. They are planning a pump station here and are currently talking with the property owner to secure the easements. Not part of Joiner, but certainly as important, is the upgrade of our infrastructure, of our facilities. The plant was last experienced a major renovation in 1977, just over 40 years ago. Filtered drains are over 40 years. The chemical storage and tanks are over 60 years old. The electrical system is in bad shape, high risk for failure, and there's no generator backup. I wanted to point out that during one of these last heavy snows, the plant lost power, and we've always understood that there was a switch on a utility pole out there that AEP could flip, and we could then, the plant, receive power from Pulaski. Well, unfortunately, we found out that that can't happen. The good news is that AEP stayed after it, found the source of power outage and repaired it, and we were back in service. But I guess we discussed this at the last meeting, board meeting, that I guess it's urban legend that that switch was there and we could use it. And we all felt bad because of that, but found out the hard way that that is not true. So our upgrade will include a generator, and we will not be faced with that calamity. And again, the facilities have little flexibility and they have limited reliability. I wanted to provide you this schematic. I asked Caleb Taylor, our director, Water Authority director, if he could look at the engineers and just provide just a schematic of what's going on. I apologize to everyone that the text was so small. But let me get to my version here where I can see a little better. Here, this is the existing building here. There'll be improvements to the lab, control room, lockers for the staff, total upgrade of the facility. The dark building right here is existing structure where Caleb has his administrative office. And that will go away. And this is a new finished water pump station and a chemical feed building with new clear wells. Currently, there's an old house that sits here. That'll be demolished, and there'll be a new shop building for maintenance. This is a new administrative building, parking, and to great benefit, a new access will be provided to Walton Road, which will allow a second point of ingress and egress, which will take you back out to the signal at the intersection of 114 and Price's Ford. The wastewater treatment plant upgrade is estimated at $27.8 million at present. I do want to mention the raw water intake and pumping facility at the river, estimated at $7.5 million. You can't forget that. You've got to lift the water up from the river to the plant to treat it, and it's critical part of the infrastructure. But some good news. Through the hard work of Caleb Taylor, working through the Virginia Department of Health, we've secured a loan, a low-interest loan of 2.5%. And during the study and financial portion of the study, we're estimating 4 to 5% of the loan interest rate. So this was really good news that I'm happy to share with you. As you can well imagine, many of you have toured the plant. It's a very complicated operation. And our engineers are doing a great job. They work on similar projects, and they warned us that the bidding environment right now is really tough. And they've watched other clients of theirs go down the traditional design bid path and get to the end and get stuck. Meaning the engineer will design the project, put it out to bid to the contractors, and the contractors will look at the project and bid it. Under that scenario, the contractor assumes all the risk. So you end up with change orders and the price will escalate. We cannot afford right now to go down a path that will not have an end to it. So on advice of our engineer, we're taking a different approach. CMAR, construction management at risk. The engineers are working on the plan currently, and they issued a RFQ, request for qualifications from contractors. And these contractors are receiving our plans, looking at them, reviewing them. At last check today, Caleb told me that 9 contractors, 9 have requested plans to look at this project. And the overall intent here is to reduce risk. And they will develop the plan to the 60% stage and then request proposals from interested contractors. They will review the proposals, then select 2 or 3 to interview. And as a result of those interviews, a contractor will be selected to move forward with the project. The overall, again, the intent is to reduce risk. There's incentive for the contractor to find savings. And that savings will be shared with the contractor and also be shared with the authority. Very excited and pleased that our engineers had the foresight to see this potential dead end and totally understand that we have to move this project forward. Again, construction is scheduled to begin this summer and completion in fall of 2020. They're going to, I think, work first on the administrative buildings. That's separate from the rest of the upgrade, and by doing so, that's a different type of contractor that would bid on the plan upgrade. So that I didn't want to answer the question. I will say that it's certainly my pleasure to serve on the board as a representative to all town citizens and businesses. And the representative from Christiansburg, that appointment is slated to be on the agenda for the end of June, 1st of July. And our administration will be receiving a letter very soon in regards to that. So with that concludes my presentation.
Do I understand the last statement that said you're going to build the administrative building first before you repair what's already outdated? That makes no sense to me whatsoever.
It's an effort, sir, while the complicated design is underway, to start construction, just to get progress, have progress made.
I mean, to me, if you're going to put him in an administrative building, buy one of the used mobile homes that the county school has. The problem is if the electrical system and all that goes down, it doesn't matter about any of this stuff that you're building and digging. You can't supply water.
Well, I didn't highlight that to generate concern, and I can certainly speak to that after I talk to Caleb in more detail.
Thank you.
I certainly understand your concern, and no, I didn't mean to imply that pushy offices are more important than providing us water. They are working as fast as they can. And I would like to point out that the engineers are doing something that I haven't experienced in my professional career, and they are looking at this building in 3D. That at the completion of the project, the staff would be able to actually go through the plan in 3D as part of the asset management portion of the project. You know, we've after all these years serial numbers and parts, model numbers become lost, and this is an effort to document that.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any committee reports tonight? Finance?
Committee, or is?
Yep, I'll talk.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, please do.
Okay. We met with Central Business on March 28th, and we were talking about the review and the discussion of the Department of Housing and Community Development Programs, which are a lot of grants. So we're seeing what we qualify for and what we can go after to try to help our downtown areas. That includes the Main Street program. And also the discussion of the bollards for the street closure on Hickok. And we spoke with first responders. There's no concerns with them closing the street. And also talked to the neighbors to make sure that they have no concerns about closing the street. So far, we've received nothing but cooperation. And we still are looking at table and chair pricing, which is to follow at future meetings. And just kind of an open general discussion that we're still concerned over parking downtown. We don't have an easy fix for that, but it is on the radar to keep discussing. And our next meeting is potentially slated for tomorrow at noon unless that changes. So I'd like to welcome anybody to attend that would like to. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other committees? Very good. Under discussion and actions by mayor and council, the first is the request by Downtown Christiansburg, Inc. for a street closure of Hickok Street Northwest from West Main Street to Commerce Street Northwest for a wine and artisans event on April the 27th, 2018.
Make a request.
Oh, there's Justin.
That was fast.
Yeah.
Man,
gotta go.
Mayor, members of council, before I get to the request, the last time that I spoke with you, I made a commitment to this council to keep you informed of the things that our organization is working on in an effort to be more transparent. So in that spirit, I just wanted to let you know a few things that we're working on. At our last board meeting, our board voted to establish 4 standing committees. Those committees are design, economic vitality, promotion, and organization. The reason that we decided to do this is the long-term goal from this visioning study that we're working on is in the next 3 to 5 years looking at Virginia Main Street status. Those are the 4 standing committees that are part of all Main Street organizations. So in an effort to streamline our work and be in line with what the town sees for the future of downtown, we wanted to create those 4 standing committees, and those committees will be getting to work very soon. We are also in the end of our visioning study with Virginia Tech Economic Development. The students will be presenting their findings to us in May, and I hope to come back to council in June to tell you about those findings and what the attitudes and opinions we've received from the citizens are about our downtown and about our organization. We are gearing up for a full event season, including our next Talk of the Town, which just wanted to let you know so you could say the date is May 17th. That's going to be at the Oaks Victorian Inn. We're going to be doing a meet and greet on the porch there, and we look forward to that. That's at 6:30 on May 17th. And we also have a poll open now for our Movies in the Park series. We wanted to get some community input, so we're allowing the public to choose our July movie. So that poll is out now. So we encourage citizens to look into that. The reason I'm here tonight is regarding our Wine and Artisans event. And for those of you that aren't familiar, this is the 3rd time we've held this event. The first year was 4 years ago, and we held this inside the Old Town Mall. Last year was the first year we'd done the festival outside. It was very well attended. We were getting our feet wet on doing this festival outside, and I thought it went well. We are working to expand upon the successes of last year, but also add some new events. So I did want to let you know some partnerships that we've worked with. We have 4 educational institutions that are going to be setting up at Wine and Artisans to promote arts education here in the New River Valley. So we're working with Bradford University's Graphic Design Department, the art program at New River Community College, the Montgomery Museum, and we're very excited that the Taubman Museum is also going to be joining us from Roanoke to talk about their programming. We also are working with the Friends of Southwest Virginia out of Abingdon. They're the regional tourism agent for this part of the state, and they'll be coming up to talk about their arts initiative as well. So we're very excited. And then I think the thing that I'm most excited about is a partnership with Christiansburg High School. Their drama department will be doing one-act plays as part of Wine and Artisans, showcasing the performing arts. That'll be in addition to our music stage, so we're going to have a lot of activities going on that night to pair with our 10 confirmed vendors. We're still looking to get more, and then 2 food vendors will also be present at the event. All of this will be contained in the same footprint for the event that we used last year, so we're asking for the closure of Hickok Street from Main Street to Commerce. We've worked with adjacent property owners to secure the use of a parking facility at the intersection of Hickok and Commerce Street, as well as Christiansburg Presbyterian Church, the use of their driveway and playground space. Everyone's on board, and we've contacted the adjacent property owners to notify them. Something else that we're doing in an effort to include our downtown business community in this event, since we're not on Main Street, we're providing the businesses with an opportunity to provide any literature or promotional items at our tent, and they've been invited to send representatives during the event to talk about their business and the programming that they're doing on Main Street. So just wanted to make you aware that's what we have planned, and we hope that council will approve the street closure that we requested.
Thank you.
Justin, what is the format for the Talk of the Town? Is that what you had at the event center?
We're still similar, but we're still looking at solidifying the program. We are looking to bring in some speakers about downtown issues. But mostly we want that event to be a networking opportunity for members of the business community, an opportunity to talk about issues that we can, as an organization, respond to, and hopefully be able to pass information along to the town that comes up as well.
So it's more social and just like it was
Yes,
the last one. Okay, very good. Thank you.
And that's at the Oaks?
Yes.
I think all of your Talk in the Towns, right, are open to networking.
That's correct.
Okay.
And we are wanting to ensure that we're addressing different issues throughout Christiansburg and throughout our community. We are looking at our later Talk of the Towns, maybe doing one of those in Cambria. And we're also investigating doing those at different spots around downtown that maybe aren't as highly trafficked, so that we can get members of the community there that maybe wouldn't come otherwise.
I'd like to thank you for including businesses to where they don't always have to buy a tent space. I think we had talked about that at one of the food truck rodeo concerns. So thanks for making that change. I do appreciate it.
It was good feedback, so we appreciated that.
Every time we close the Main Street downtown and you have the food truck rodeo, it's packed. One's not enough.
We hear you there.
We've heard that.
Similar concern to Christiansburg Institute. We're a board of 6. So we are hoping, as we can continue to grow the board and increase our funding base, that we would have the capacity to be able to do more events on that scale. This one's a much smaller scale event, but I think the impact is the same, that we're getting people downtown, we're getting foot traffic, and we hope to see McAdoo's filled up just like they are at food truck rodeo.
Okay.
And we appreciate what you guys do too, a lot.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Did I hear a motion started just a moment ago?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we honor the request by DCI for street closure as presented in the agenda and described in the agenda.
Second.
And a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. Councilman Bishop? Councilman Collins?
Aye.
Councilman Hubbard?
Aye.
Councilwoman Sacks?
Aye.
Councilman Showalter?
Aye.
Councilman Stipes?
Aye.
This is 6-0. Thank you.
27.
Thank you, buddy.
The addition on the scoreboard operating agreement, Mr. Epperly, would you like to come to the podium? I think Mr. Bishop has a couple of questions.
Good, how are you doing?
Yeah, I do have a couple of questions. Number one, make sure I understand what's going on. The Kiwanis Park wants to release the ownership of those scoreboards to the town, correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
All right. At this time, who is responsible for maintenance
So currently, per our agreement that we signed here a year or so ago, we are responsible for the maintenance of the scoreboards.
So we all take a, do you know what kind of shape those scoreboards are in?
Well,
I know they need paint.
yeah, the scoreboards are old. They're operational. They're working currently right now. We do general maintenance on them, such as bulbs and those types of things. Occasionally, we have to have folks come in and do some things to them. You know, they're pretty old. To be honest with you, the lifespan of them has probably exceeded themselves. You know, the goal that I have, that you know, looking at it from the scoreboard perspective is right now we're doing maintenance on it, but we get really nothing but the use in return. So if we're doing the maintenance on it, if we have ownership of the boards, then basically if something were to happen with any agreement or anything along those lines, we take the boards with us. You know, they can go to another facility or wherever we need to. The other aspect of it is, and the goal was to do just like what we did at the recreation center, is to get a sponsorship that would cover the actual price of the scoreboard. And so that would take care of that. And then there would be small sponsorships that could be a possibility for revenue as well.
Okay. Brad, the club's still reserving the right to approve who sponsors it, though, right?
They to a certain extent, the way that it reads is so that it's pretty much the same thing that we look at is just so that it's not a entity that would go against their mission, basically, of servicing the community and those types of things.
All right, you said the scoreboards have almost come to the end of life. So how is that going to benefit the town if we take ownership right now?
So, you know, again, from an ownership standpoint, I mean, if we're going to be maintaining things, then we would have the ownership of it. So, you know, it's not like we're maintaining something and not getting anything in return. The other aspect of it, too, is the opportunity would be there for revenue, a small generation of revenue. It's not going to be a lot, but be a small generation of revenue. And the other part of it from a benefit standpoint is we need scoreboards. If we host national events and those types of things, which we do, and we use Kiwanis Park for those events, that's our second tier facility. It's a requirement to be able to have scoreboards and those types of things at the actual facility that we use.
So this person, do you feel that if we didn't maintain them, that they would come down? Would the Kiwanis Club take them down?
Far as
if we didn't maintain those scoreboards?
Possibly.
Well, under the initial agreement, we maintained, but we would also replace, right?
We would maintain. I don't know that it ever discussed replaced in there.
Okay.
Under the initial. I've got it here. Town will maintain grounds and facilities and have the right to make improvements to the park, but any new building project will require approval from the owner in advance of commencing. So it really wasn't a replacement aspect at that point. We wanted it to be a replacement. Originally, that was the goal. That's what we wanted. One, just because of the sponsorship aspect, and we were maintaining it, so it made it much easier for us to be able to maintain something that's ours. You know.
Well, in the end, if they didn't work, even if we don't do this addendum, the town would still pick up, and the club could not, change or buy new ones. We would initially buy new ones and install them so we can continue to have
most
the
likely,
championship events.
It might as well be ours anyway.
The biggest thing that we would probably do is what I mentioned is we would probably go out and seek sponsorship to try to purchase the boards is what we would do.
We did very well with the sponsorships inside of the rec center on replacing those boards.
And basically what we did is they purchased the board, the company, whoever it might be, they purchased the board, and it was basically, it's their sponsorship for the life of the board.
All right, so you feel it's a benefit for the town to take ownership?
I do. I do think that it is a benefit, yes, sir.
That's all I have.
Well, I make a motion that we approve the addendum to the Kiwanis contract. Do we need any more than that?
No, I think that's good.
I second it.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussions or questions? Hearing none, Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. Councilman Bishop?
Aye.
Councilman Collins?
Aye.
Councilman Hubbard?
Aye.
Councilwoman Sacks?
Aye.
Councilman Showalter?
Aye.
Councilman Stipes?
Aye.
I guess, thank you, Brad.
Thank you very much.
Under discussion and action by mayor and council, where in each of your mind are we on the noise ordinance? Are we ready to vote on it tonight?
No, I'm
Okay.
not, no.
Okay, that's fine.
I was, yeah,
Certainly.
no,
I'm just asking. So, here's the dilemma that I don't know if it's a dilemma. Our next meeting is April the 24th, which is 5 days after the Starlight Drive-In opens. So they would be under the guidelines of the old noise ordinance, which is they're done at 10 o'clock at night. Is that my understanding?
Correct.
So do we want to look at having a special called work session / town council meeting next week to go over this, to understand where we are with the possibilities of being able to approve it that night, so that it would be in effect when the businesses start? So I'm open.
That's a good point.
Well, I think with non-controversial action items, we'll accelerate when something's pretty cut and dried and so forth. We'll move up, and act on it. This one, no need to state the obvious, but this is one of the more contentious issues we've had in a long time. I'm prepared. I'm pretty comfortable with how I'm going to vote on this, but I think to take action prematurely on this right now could be misconstrued, and we're still hearing from people in emails, and I just think things need to play out and follow our normal process. Okay, so they're having an event. But anyway, that's for those reasons. I think any action on our part could be misconstrued, and I see no need to break from our normal process.
Well, again, I'm playing devil's
That's just
advocate.
now,
I
that's
just
one
want to see how you are. I think, Planning Commission voted 9-0. They presented the thing to us. Now, getting back to, do you want a work session? Do you want a work session prior to the council meeting on the 24th? You want a work session during next week so that we can sit down as a council and understand, if we don't already, the ramifications and the implications of what this new ordinance does?
Yeah, I'll jump in on there. I went to one of the planning commission meetings, when they were discussing this, and they did make several changes, as I recall. I think you have a good point. I think that maybe we should have something down before they open for the new season. I would maybe recommend that we have a work session maybe next week and have Andrew come up there and state, with the changes we made and go over it again, and the attorney can maybe say a few words too, and then take it from there. Bill, we cannot vote on a work session though, can we?
We can have a work session prior to a special called town council meeting, and we can take action. But if we're just having a work session today, we cannot. The actual vote would be at the next scheduled town council meeting, which is April the 24th.
And that's it. They're going to open on the 19th?
21st, 20th, somewhere in that area. So
add a little drama to things.
I'm not trying to add drama to it, but it is what it is.
I would support a work session only for the ability to totally understand every bit and piece of what we're voting on. I would. I don't know if we need to make a special. I do tend to agree with Mr. Stipes on that one. I feel like we're talking about the Starlight, but this impacts everybody.
We're basically talking about a noise ordinance,
right.
Period.
Right.
So, that part of it's all fine. I just, what I hope that we can come up with is a time and a date. Now, tonight I kind of sprung this on you. I'm going to charge each council member with checking their schedules over the next week, keeping in mind I have to have a 3-day public notice for a work session. So I would like to hear from each of you tomorrow with a series of dates and times that you would be available. There's nothing coming up, we don't have any finance workshops or anything like that? So,
Well, you could,
And why could we
you
not?
could always have a work session next week and schedule a special meeting, and then not, if we don't feel comfortable after the work session in pursuing a special meeting, then we don't have to have it. But we could schedule it.
Why could we not, and I'll acquiesce, there's some good points being made on that. Why would we not have if we're gonna add a work session, and heaven knows, we've had tons of them, why would we not have it before the next meeting? Why do we need to act in haste?
I don't see a work session as acting in haste, Mr. Stopes. I think it gives us a time. If it is a Tuesday night, Wednesday night, it gives us time to then digest what we've learned that night to the following Tuesday night's meeting.
Okay.
It's just, an hour, a work session, an hour and a half before council, I'm not sure gives me time enough I'm fairly up on this, but it may not give some time to digest the entire.
Fair enough.
The entire thing. So that's all I'm asking. If you say, we'll just schedule one Tuesday 2 weeks from now, then Melissa and Randy and I will get together and we'll schedule it.
No, that's fair
I'm just
enough.
trying to get it all out there because it was a long process.
So Brad, you're saying a work session prior to our meeting in 2 weeks?
No, it's fair enough. Work sessions, I just don't want to add any more drama to this situation than it's already been.
But I think if we drag our,
But I respect the request, and if that's what council's pleasure is, we'll certainly do that. And it's a fair point to say, maybe not right before we take action, should we have this work session? Fair enough.
if they perceive us to be dragging our feet or something like that, I don't think we're in a very good position with them right now anyway, and if we just extend this a little bit more, they're gonna say, hey, council is really not trying to help the situation at all, they're just dragging their feet.
A good position with who? Some business owners or the
Yes,
residents
right,
or residential neighborhoods who's?
Well, I think, all the above.
Right.
I think we'd be doing ourselves really good due diligence to take the time to discuss it as a group before we voted.
Okay.
Would you be willing to have it the night of council?
I do like the idea of digesting it sooner. I know it's more work for all of us to get together, but I do agree on that part.
The other part of the fence is we have, the proposed ordinance is out there in writing. So there is some time for you each to read. If you want to read and ask questions and direct questions that may allow us on the night of the council meeting at a work session to discuss those, or I'm sure Andrew and his staff would be willing to do that. I want to make this thing as smooth as we can, and I want to make sure that we all understand or feel good about what we are proposing, because there's decibels and decibel levels and things that we don't know about, and I thought a work session at some point next week with a resident sound expert to come and play because I think you came to a planning commission meeting and played the decibels and the type thing. Is that right?
Yes, they asked me to come and demonstrate some benchmark decibel levels, similar to what was being proposed for the ordinance. We did that. We also talked about some technical issues associated with sound measurement. If you want that again or want me there to answer questions, I'll try to do it. I can't do it every night next week. I can do some nights.
So would you include me on a list of nights you might be available, if you could email to me?
I'll be happy to do it. And I have seen this, I guess, from the very first planning commission meeting, I believe, so I've seen the revisions and have some history with it and understand why the revisions were made. And, as someone who works in the field,
worked in it for 36 years. I'm comfortable with most of what I've seen, and there may be some details and some small tweaks you want to work out. If I can add something to that, I'll be glad to come to your meeting.
I didn't
would
recognize
appreciate
I didn't recognize Dr. Casali in the audience, but he's a preeminent expert in the subject matter.
Right.
So,
What would you think of next Tuesday?
what would you think of sending me an email with dates?
Okay.
As I ask, and
Okay.
then we can go from that point, so I can get a list.
All right.
Not Tuesday?
Yeah.
You got a Covington thing, don't you?
I
Probably
have Vinton,
Vinton, okay. Well, there you go. So,
unless it's in the daytime.
yeah, that's going over. I ask that you contact me tomorrow with some dates and times, and we will work on it from there. All right, staff reports, town manager.
Got 2 public hearings for you to set on May 8th. Recommend both of them. One will be a public hearing for the water and sewer rate increases, and the other would be for the budget.
Okay. That's
Both
your
on the same
recommendation, the 8th?
May 8th.
Okay. Do we have a motion? Do we need a motion to that, or we just
So
head
moved.
nod at you? So moved by Henry. Second
Second. Yeah.
from Harry. Okay.
And I'll just bring up the Shred-a-thon. I know it's been brought up to, I guess, Brad and I recently. Through talking to Brad, a little history on that. It was done through a grant that we got through the Triad Seniors Group, which is basically a group of seniors who work with the police departments, sheriff's department, also the Parks and Rec department, and the county Parks and Rec department. So it is actually a grant-funded program that we've done. The first year we did it, it was only open to seniors, although after that we opened it up to residences. And part of the reason we haven't opened it up to businesses is because right now we have 2 trucks handling it, and it is really maxed out with the residences. I mean, we literally have to turn some of the residences away now because the trucks get full. So, it's really just kind of a matter of the fact that we're doing it through a grant, and that it's basically taking 2 trucks full-time just to handle residential pickup. If the grant were more, if we wanted to fund it on our own, we could do that, and Brad and I have talked about that possibility, so.
Somebody reached out to the chamber for them to do a small business shred-a-thon?
No, we haven't.
I do think it's an interesting point to make, and I appreciate you addressing that, filling us in. I think it's something we should talk about.
I have seen some shred-a-thons are limiting to 4 boxes or 6 boxes of materials, and that way I think if you did that, you could possibly open it to the small businesses under those stipulations.
That's
So
what Roanoke is doing right now.
you got 3 boxes right now? So if you do 3 boxes, you can't,
It'll take me 3 years to just get rid of all the council paperwork.
I know.
It'd make my wife extremely happy.
Then the sign would be, instead of excluding somebody, say 3-box limit or something like that.
Yeah. So
anyway, it's something to think about.
let me regress for a moment. We had a motion and a second on the 2 public hearing on May the 8th. Madam Clerk, would you?
Yes, sir. Councilman Bishop. Councilman Collins.
Aye.
Councilman Hubbard.
Aye.
Councilwoman Sacks.
Aye.
Councilman Showalter.
Aye.
Councilman Stipes.
Aye.
6-0, thank you. Is that it?
So,
Is that all you got? And, Madam Attorney?
I would just like to say that I'm planning to be here on Thursday instead of Friday this week because I have to be in Covington, and I'm happy to meet with any of you on a one-on-one basis. If you have any questions about the ordinance and would like to discuss it in further depth, I will say that I really think that the presentation that Professor Casali made at the Planning Commission work session was really an eye-opener, because a lot of the decibel levels are really just a number until you actually hear it. And so to the extent that, he can do that for you, I think it'd be very helpful so that you understand how we arrived at these numbers. And I think give you a little bit more of a comfort level.
And I think the other understanding is that the decibel level is not from the source, it's at the complaint.
That's right. The measurement will be taken on the property of the complainant. So we don't have to measure distances or anything like that, or worry about where property lines are. And we're trying to make this as simple as possible for our law enforcement officers to enforce, because every little detail that you add in an ordinance adds another layer of something that they've got to prove in court, so.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Any other town staff, Madam Finance Director? Ready to go? We did discover a slight error on page 51 of your budget.
51. Oh, I did have a question. Do you all want new hard copies?
No.
Save the trees.
Again, shred-a-thon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we pay for, I mean, bring your stuff in here, it's town
I
business.
think I've got them.
We'll shred it.
When I first was elected.
Okay.
I just wanted to just note that if anyone would like to give me a call as well, I think the staff report that was in your packets kind of goes over the highlights of the changes, and I have a PowerPoint presentation too that I'm happy to send out that has some the summary of changes, and I'm happy to go over that whenever the work session happens to be scheduled.
Okay. Mr. Nelson?
I had one thing as
Oh.
well.
Brad?
I just wanted to let you know the bike share program. I know that you approved the MOU today, but just wanted to let you know that that's moving forward. We've got Joseph Kuhn here with us today, and one of our locations will be at the New River Valley Mall for the bike share location. It'll be at the NRCC. We also have one at the Recreation Center. The preliminary goal is that hopefully we can unveil this in May. I think a realistic goal is probably June or July, to be honest with you. But we have decided and went forward with our program name as Roam NRV, and just looking forward to sort of getting it out there. We're going to have 70-some 7-speed bikes and 13 e-assist bikes that will be used from Blacksburg, Christiansburg, Virginia Tech, and Montgomery County. So just want to let you know.
Thank you. Mr. Nelson?
Sir, if I may.
Yes, sir.
I made a misstatement. I don't know if it was nerves or going off script, but I really need to certainly set the record straight. Excuse me. Excuse me. Thank you, Andrew. The dark area right here, again, I made a misstatement. They aren't going to focus here. The focus is, the first step is going to tear down the administrative offices right here, where Caleb currently is housed and his secretary. And either they're going to work in the conference room, old conference room in the plant, or they're going to work out of a trailer. Reason being is, this is the nuclear well and the pumping facility, and that's got to get built first. It doesn't depend. It's not dependent upon the existing facility. It is separate, and it can move forward on its own, and it needs to. If money was never an issue, the easy thing to do is to go on the other side of all this property that the authority owns and build a complete new plant. That way this plant can continue to function while the new plant is being built, and you just flip a switch and put the new plant in operation. But they're going to be challenged to keep providing us water at the same time they're renovating that facility. So I think that my presentation ended on a sour note. It kind of undermines all the hard work that's going on, and I wouldn't sleep tonight if I didn't get up here and set the record straight.
Thank you, Wayne. Or I'm sure I would have met you first thing in the morning down here, wouldn't I?
Pardon me?
I'm sure you'd have been in my office first thing in the morning to clarify. That's
Well,
good.
I don't know about that.
You're good. Thank you.
I do want to make it public, though.
I would say your turbidity was a little high.
You got that.
Excuse me?
It's an engineering joke.
The other suggestion, Wayne, is instead of tearing down the house next door, move the administrative offices up there.
Well, it's called termites.
Okay. Well, a few termites never hurt anybody. Oh, Lord, they're not
It's well
termites.
ventilated.
Okay, okay, we're good. Council reports. Ms. Sachs.
I had I'm not quite sure this is the place to mention it, so please tell me if I'm wrong. But I had reviewed the budget, and I had a concern over the merchant service fees that we're paying. And I through questioning, I've learned that you guys have already discussed it. I'd like to open that back up at some point to discuss.
Buck starts over there.
Okay.
I mean, I would think, really and truly.
It was a council decision not to charge customers to use credit cards, though.
We discussed it a few years ago. I was in
Right.
favor of.
Yeah.
The
I'm
fee
just
being
really
rolled over.
concerned when I looked at the amounts, they're adding up astronomically, and that concerns me a lot.
We can always go back to cash payments,
So-
and we won't have to pay that. But I mean, that's
So you'd like to open up the discussion about, do we charge a premium for people that pay with a
Yes.
Yes.
debit or credit card?
Yes, I would.
Most
Okay.
organizations do.
Yes, they do. The county does, because I know
Virginia
I
Tech
pay them.
does.
You know.
And we
yeah.
can certainly open that up, and again, as Mr. Showalter said, there was a split on council, or there was different trains of thought.
Mhm.
The other side of that coin, and I agree with that, that's one side, and the other side is that our collections have increased dramatically with people's ability to use that, so there's a trade-off. But
Right.
yeah, certainly, yeah, that's why you're sitting at the table, you bring these things up and we'll talk about them, and we
Just
might change our mind on it.
sometime Whenever it
Do we
falls
want to
into
have
place.
another work session? For the other items?
the WS, the dreaded WS.
I mean, you brought it up tonight, but then
Right.
when we go through a public hearing, I mean,
We could have a discussion on.
you don't want to
the
go
other
through a
one.
public hearing and still have that in there if a majority council feels like it should
So
be out.
we've advertised the budget. I don't think we can add a fee to it.
Comment on that?
Yeah.
We
We're
can
not
eliminate a fee.
Changing from where we are right now with respect to merchant fees is not something that can happen overnight. That's gonna be a project to figure out how that can happen. It's changing our customer web interface to charge those fees. And quite honestly, that's where our biggest cost is. It's not so much taking the credit cards at the front desk. It's taking credit cards over the phone and taking credit cards on our website. That's where the fees are very, very high, because the card is not present.
Right.
So to make a transactional change like that, to change that process, isn't something that's gonna go into effect July 1. So
We
the
should
only
just,
thing that would do,
But kinda-
if we take merchant service fees out of the budget, is we shut down our website, we have no more online bill pay, because I can't make those changes that quickly.
No, I totally understand. I'm
But
just
if we-
open for discussion, perhaps
Well,
for
you know, I
next
think we have a
budget.
couple of
I'm
Or
things.
all on
something
that.
to look
Okay, I'm
for
sorry.
I'm all
going
on that.
forward.
We'll
Yeah.
do
Chomping
that.
at the bits, I'm
I'm
sorry.
all on that.
but we
I
can start the
can't make
discussion in July, correct?
that,
That gives you
For
a
the-
whole
the
year
next
for the
budget
next
year.
year.
It's like the smoke, the
for
cigarette tax thing.
effect July of next year, but not to start
Right.
discussion July of 2018, because we've got too many projects on the table right
For
now.
2018?
For me to look at that right now.
Okay.
I
All
mean,
right.
wasn't there a big thing about the amount of work that goes into the credit cards?
No.
No, that wasn't
No,
it?
It's just, once you sort of set something into place and you have it there, and that's the way you're processing, now if you want to change the way you do that, that's a major process change in how you go about conducting business that you can't just change overnight.
It's not a flip of a switch.
No,
No.
I don't have,
It's,
well, the only flip would be, we just don't do it anymore, and we shut down WebPay and all those processes, which I think
You
is
still have-
going backwards.
Well, you don't have to bid it back out. You could switch to
No.
a client.
No, but-
Clients have to cover their fee through the
Right,
vendor.
but I can't change the web interface overnight
Right,
to
I
charge
understand
that
that.
fee.
Right.
So,
But it can be changed, and
Yes,
if
it
you have
can.
enough, what are we talking time-wise?
pardon me?
Time-wise. Implementation's one thing, but how long would it take you to be set and ready? You can do that during any time in the fiscal year.
Yeah, Yeah, and I don't think it's an issue if we want to plan on this going into effect late into the fiscal year, in which case it would just be reduced fees, or by the beginning of the following fiscal year. That's not an issue.
So you need to check your schedule and tell us when you can talk about it. Hopefully August.
Probably like, yeah.
So, I heard you say September. All right, so let's set it for September.
Well, and we could, I mean, if we were to make a change and a majority of us felt to make a change, you could implement that whenever you want, I mean, first of the calendar year, if you wanted to, right? I mean, whenever we deemed appropriate, that was enough time to get the word out and to change our.
Yeah, once we figure out what the process is and what we're going to change and how we're going to move forward.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be on January or July 1st or.
And the majority of the council go along with it.
Right, yeah.
Okay, very good. Okay, what else?
Thank you, that's all.
Very good. Mr. Hubbard?
I pass.
Mark that one down.
Yeah, what's this
Mr.
today?
Stipes?
I'd like to recognize Dr. Casali and congratulations on the Chrisman Mill Road crossing. And I'm sure you're very popular with your neighbors with the new road improvement project that's coming along. And I'd like to tell Ms. Sachs, I think she's an outstanding council member coming on here. And I will just say publicly that you have earned the right to bring up whatever topic you want to talk about, and we will do so.
Thank you.
And I'm very, very happy you're at the table, and you bring a great perspective. And yeah, you don't have to ask permission to bring anything up here you want to bring up. Thank you.
Appreciate that, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Showalter?
I don't have anything.
Okay. Mr. Bishop?
I don't have anything.
Mr. Collins?
Yes, sir. With the planning commission, we've heard all this stuff on the new ordinance and stuff, and it's confusing until this man comes to the room and explains it and brings examples, and then it's clear as a bell. So we have to have him for a work session, or it's not going to be worth it.
Okay. I don't have a whole lot. We got, I wanted to, since I have Mark and Brad in the room, on May the 9th, it is a Wednesday, we're going to do a renaming and dedication of Town Park. And Mark, Brad, would you all team together and tell us a little bit about what's going on?
Sure.
This is something that's been in the work about 5 years, I think.
Yeah, it's something that we've spoken about for at least 5 years. When Scott Hilton was killed in the line of duty, Scott Hilton was a National Guards member. And we had a few recommendations about naming that park after him or doing some type of tribute. So we worked through that after the land swap happened. Myself, Brad, and the mayor have been working through that. We've got a date set. May 9th is his date of death in the line of duty. So we want to coincide the park dedication with his annual service, and we plan to do that. So we brought Brad on board. Public Works is helping us with some design, and 2 monuments have been ordered that'll be set and dedicated that day.
But I think the name of the park, Brad, is...
Yeah, the name of the park will still be Downtown Park, dedicated to our fallen officers. And we put this before our Parks and Recreation Advisory Commission, and that was the name that they approved to move forward. And so we are obviously honored to be able to do that with the Downtown Park, and hope that all of you can come out on May the 9th.
And we'll send notices out just in case. All right. Any other business to come before council tonight? Reminder, I'm gonna get some feedback from you all on work sessions and dates and times. Very good. If there is nothing else to come before council, we are adjourned. Dr. Cuss, thank you very much for coming tonight. We're gonna put you to use.